If you hold it, they'll hear it better. Yeah.
Drive, and I was telling them like the tip is always sort of the thing that you're working on constantly is like the tip. Yeah. But I've over the years, what I would say for anyone, like it's always been helpful to me, so I pass it on to you, is I organize every grant that I write in Google Drive. And so I have like open grants, pending grants, closed grants. And then whenever, like I organize them by date. And so if it's open, that means I've applied, but every single piece of paperwork or like a budget, a worksheet that I've made all my text come from, samples of what I've submitted for work samples, it all gets dumped in there. And then once I've applied, then if I get it, inside of that, I start another folder that says like final report. And so then I save everything as I spend it most of the time. I said, anytime I see them, it's like going to church. You're like, okay, I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna get better. But I try as best as I can to save things as I go so that whenever it is time, I can easily pull it and it's all in one place. So Google Drive is my best friend. That's my tip. Okay. And there's our info. Always ready to.
This presentation will be sent around, so all of this information will be emailed to you after today.
Thank you.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, I just ask that you come up and speak into the microphone so that people at home can also hear them. So feel free to do that. Otherwise, I can just repeat them into the microphone. Does anyone have any questions for Claire? Not right now. So I did also just add a few more local organizations that you could look into, some grant opportunities. I don't have a lot of information on them, but I do know that they exist. So I just wanted you to have that information as well. What's the next one?
Want to pass it down? There you go. Is it yours? There you go. Anna and I can do that one together.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, then you can talk about the grants and all that. Okay, so about the ACA. So our mission is to foster arts and culture in Acadiana, throughout Acadiana. We do a lot of things, like this building is 50,000 square feet, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure we keep growing. And we have a performing arts center here, which is amazing, the Monkus Theater. We have smaller galleries downstairs, a very large gallery to my right now, and we have this gallery. We have several gallery spaces. There's a great vault down there that we can do so many different things in. This was an old bank building. We have an arts and education program that takes place in so many different places, but primarily it started in Lafayette Parish many years ago. It's like over 20-something years ago. I should know for sure. Bree would be mad for me not knowing the exact number of years. But we're expanding into the Million Parish and also in Opelousas and St. Landry Parish in that area. So it's a great program. Every child is in line to have an arts experience from Lafayette Parish School System, which I think is amazing. We have a visual arts department, which is responsible for all the galleries. I meant to say that. And we have a community development department that Anna and I manage together, and we serve Acadiana through the 8 parishes with arts grants that are state, local, privately funded. And we serve artists and nonprofit arts and culture organizations, and we encourage collaborations and lots of partnerships in the arts. Did I leave anything out? Performing arts, yeah, I think that's it.
So, yeah, we have a lot of opportunities here. I'm just going to run through them really briefly. The Louisiana project grant, which Erica is probably going to talk a little bit more about in a minute, so I'll leave that up to her. We administer it, but LDOA funds it. The Arts Spark grant is one that is funded by LEADA, the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. We actually have some Arts Spark recipients here. Hi, Carrie, hi, Susan. And it is for individual artists up to $5,000 to create new pieces of work that could, that can mean so many different things. The application period for that will open in January, but if you want to talk about them sooner so that you can start planning a project, my phone, just call me, email me, we can set up a time to chat about what you're thinking. The Jean Breaux Award is actually for high school and college students. It's about up to $1,000 for extracurricular art projects. We have the Art Box, which is, you've all seen those art boxes with art on them. This is a yearly program run by the Visual Arts Department. They do a selection process, submission process. I think there's like a $500 stipend that comes along with that one. The LCG Arts and Culture Grant, which is funded by the Lafayette Consolidated Government. It's for arts and culture organizations in Lafayette only, not in Acadiana, just Lafayette. You can apply for up to $5,000. I'm getting confused with LCG.
I know, LPG, LCG.
Up to $5,000 for arts and culture organizations. They have 2 streams. One is for operations. So that can just be for any kind of operational costs, your salaries, your utilities, your supplies, anything at all like that. And then we also have one for projects, and that is again for project-based. So we need to have a specific project that you're working on that has a beginning, middle, and end, and you need to tell us exactly what it is for us to fund it. And we also have a lot of grants for teachers, so opportunities for teachers. So we have arts grants for teachers, which is for LPSS schools. You can apply for up to $2,000 to create experiences for your students in any LPSS school. If you are just looking for ways to incorporate your art into teaching, we have 2 other programs, which is the Teaching Artist Program. So this is something that you can come up with a concept, you can go into and then you provide a synopsis of what that is, and the schools can look through different opportunities and pluck you out and bring you into their schools for these programs. And then there's also PACE, which is a more consistent, you're placed in the school system on a regular basis. Those 3 are managed by our education department. Their contact details will be coming up on the slide as well.
One other thing too that we don't have on there, it's a partnership that we have with Lafayette Consolidated Government Public Works Department, and it's called the Storm Drain Project. It's very similar to Art Box in that any local artist from throughout Acadiana, actually, even though it's a Lafayette Consolidated Government-based program, this one in particular, they will take any artist from anywhere throughout Acadiana that would like to submit a drawing, painting, something that could be put onto a storm drain to promote waterway safety, you know, and only rain goes down the drain kind of thing. And those artists usually will get a stipend as well. It had been $500 similar to the Art Box one, but I'm not sure right now what it is and when it's coming out. But be on the lookout for it. It will be on Lafayette Consolidated Government website and on ours too when it comes back.
Yeah, and we also share everything on social media, so Facebook and Instagram is the best place to get that information. Well, that's the current information. So basically, the application process, the Louisiana project grants are through Submittable, which there is a link to on our website, which is where you can find all the other projects. But you can also contact us and we will direct you to where all those opportunities are. And we also make sure that we keep the previous year's guidelines up so that you can see roughly what you would be expected to do in the next grant cycle. So grant writing tip from us is don't ever assume that the person who is reading your grant knows who you are, what you're doing, where you're from. You always need to make sure that you are writing to somebody who knows nothing about you. All too often we see people assuming that the panelists are going to know who they are, but it's really not the case. So yeah, just make sure you're writing to anybody.
The details are important. Details.
Anyone have any questions about these programs?
The LPG program was formerly DAF. If you remember the Decentralized Arts Funding Program, how many people remember that program, Decentralized Arts Funding? That was around for 20 years. And it changed. It's just morphed into a wonderful new program.
It's still morphing.
Yeah, it's still morphing. And it's online now. Everything's online, so that's so much easier.
Okay, so we're a little bit different. We're not strictly arts-based, but we do fund arts projects, things like this. So, but I'll be brief.
Maybe I'll just click it from here. Oh.
So I throw this up here because it kind of goes with my grant writing tip. This is just our mission statement. National heritage areas are administered by the National Park Service. They're one of our partners. And our primary goal as the Atchafalaya National Heritage Area is to promote and preserve the cultural, natural, and recreational resources around the Atchafalaya Basin and floodway. A lot of that is included in Acadiana, but we start up in Concordia, go all the way down to Terrebonne. We also look to empower local champions and local creators through our grants program and soon our other technical support programs. So our grants. The first two I'll talk about are pretty much the same as far as reporting goes. They are reimbursable grants, meaning you have to pay the money before you can receive the grant from us. They require at least a 1-to-1 match. Usually our projects are more like a 1.5 to a 2 match, 2 to 1 match, but that won't disqualify you if you're only a 1-to-1. And we can only fund up to 50% of a project. So if it's a $2,000 project, we can only fund up to $1,000. Difference is our celebration grants we can receive those on a rolling basis starting at the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1. And the max you can apply for is up to $5,000. And that can be for anything from, we had someone that needed printing costs. They had an art exhibition at Capitol Park Museum. We have an artist that took pictures of the sugarcane industry in New Iberia and needed some help with like framing and then kind of moving his exhibition. So anything up to $5,000, and it's accepted year round until we run out of money. The legacy grants, the application period is only in May. Opens May 1, closes May 31st every year. And the max, there is no max you can ask for, but typically we see the most we kind of give people now is around $10,000 to $15,000. And those are for more legacy projects. We'll see kayak launches, supporting Atchafalaya creators from Creative Acadiana was a recipient of one of our legacy grants. So things that have more of a lasting impact or a further reach are kind of fall under those grants. Now, if you miss an application period, if you get one of our grants and you're looking for more matching funds, we also track other funding opportunities on our website. Now that'll be we have some Acadiana Center for the Arts grants that they administer. We track EPA grants, we track EDA grants.
Can I just say how much of an excellent resource that is? And I give it to everybody who asks me about grants. So like, it must take you so long to like compile all of that.
We keep it fairly up to date. I'm on a lot of email lists with grants. So it is fairly up to date. It's separated by arts and culture, community and economic development, natural resource improvements, recreation improvements. So we track a lot of different things and we try to help our grantees kind of layer on what they need for their project, because we're federally funded, so we can't use federal match, but if you get a state grant, like the Division of the Arts grants, that counts as a match for us. That's actually, we partnered with the Forecast program. That's one of they match with us for that, so they can have more money for that program. So to apply, both of our grants are also unsubmittable. So if you've done a Louisiana project grant or something through the Division of the Arts, it's same process, same login and everything. You're gonna go to our website, atchafalaya.org, and then they have apply for grants at the top, or under about us, there's grants and resources. That's where you're gonna find information where it says it's currently closed. In May, they'll have a button for you to apply on submittable for our legacy grants. And then under small fund grants, you'll click that link and it'll take you to the small fund submittable that's open all year starting July 1. So other funding opportunities are under other grants. So that table, and I don't have a picture of it, but the table I mentioned, we've got 70 to 100 grants, and we're always adding and updating. That's where you'll find that. So you can find that all on one page on our website. Grant writing tip. We have a panel for our grant reviews, and every year it always comes up where they want the applicant to tie back to the mission of the organization and the story of the organization. So for our grants specifically, that's how we relate to water, how we live with and in spite of it, and our unique Louisiana, Cajun, Creole, French language and culture. But that's kind of the case for any grant. Keywords are crucial. I can use supporting Atchafalaya creators as an example. They wrote the grant tailored to us, specifically to support parishes within their region that don't get a lot of support in regards to artists and art projects. So that's kind of my tip. And this is how to contact me. I have cards if anybody needs, but if it's sent out, call or email me anytime.
Any quick questions? I'm also happy to share like what we wrote in our grant with that as well, because I think like what we're paying for, and one of those things is actually being able to provide this hybrid setup to people who live further afield who can't actually come to these sessions live. So thinking outside the box a little bit to try to reach those areas, and we will be visiting those parishes in person as well. So other regional, like on a greater scale, if you haven't already tapped into South Arts, please do. They have some excellent grants. 2 of them have just opened. One of them is the presenting grant, which you can get up to $15,000 to travel as a presenter. And they have another one that opened as well, but I can't remember what that is. So now,
I don't understand. Presenting.
Yeah, so as a performer, you can travel around, yeah. So now we have Erica.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and talk about the grant opportunities that are available within the Louisiana Division of the Arts. So here's the LDOA mission, and the programs that make that mission come to life include the Folk Life program run by Maida Owens, who's been in that role for, you know, I think 30 plus years and has a lot of accolades as a folk life person throughout, you know, the country at this point. And she has currently started these Bayou culture collaboration talks. And so she's really kind of going further and partnering with organizations that deal with land loss and kind of bridging the culture. And so that's something that as an artist, I would really encourage, you know, if you have land loss and the culture that's being lost along with that as a focus, that's kind of a network that is really kind of come a long way, and it's really kind of being generated by just individuals that are tuning into these conversations that happen once a month, and then they're kind of, you know, going into breakout groups from there and deciding what they want to do with the conversation that's being organized by this collaborative. So that's the Bayou Culture Collaborative. And then there's the Cultural Districts program under the Louisiana Division of the Arts. And that's a program where communities kind of organize themselves and they decide to apply to have the status of a cultural district to leverage the artistic assets of their community. And there's also some tax incentives that go along with that. And then we also have an arts and education person who we have a brand new arts and education director. So there should be some more, she's got a lot of experience in arts and education out of Baton Rouge. And I'm excited to kind of see what she's going to be offering, because I know that there's going to be some more programming to come based on her ideas. And then, is that it? Oh, and then the Percent for Art program.
The big one.
That works with any facility that is using state funds, 1% of the budget, if it's over, I think, 2 million, goes towards art. And so we've got 2 people that, you know, coordinate and get the calls out to artists. They love to use Louisiana artists whenever possible, and they do a lot of these workshops and things to get Louisiana artists up to the level to where they can, you know, successfully compete and get public art out there. And through
call right now for $250,000 to produce an exterior public art piece, 3 exterior public art pieces, either one artist or a team of artists. And it's going to be at the LUS campus. Baton Rouge. It's a really amazing opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because they would have been here, but they're traveling to a conference.
I have like a pamphlet for them at the front here as well.
But what I'm most comfortable talking about is the grant programs, so I'll get into that. And we have 2 kind of standard grant programs. One is the Louisiana Project Grants Program, and it was mentioned already because we partner with 9 regional arts councils throughout the state to administer that program. So the funding comes from the state, and there's an allocation based on the population of the region. And it's through that submittable platform that everyone applies. However, you know, it's the staff here in the Acadiana region at the Acadiana Center for the Arts who will get those applications in, organize the panel of local community members that review all the applications, and so decisions are made on a regional level. And the difference kind of between switching from DAF to the project grants is that they are just that, they're specific to a project. DAF had a couple of different you know, variations of things you could get funded at different times throughout the course of that program. And one of them was organizational support. So we have a lot of organizations that are kind of repeat applicants for these regional grants. And we're trying to really hone in on the shift from organizational support to this really does have to meet the criteria of being a standalone project, aside from just the standard, maybe yearly scope of work of an organization, of an arts organization. These are intended to kind of meet a community need, to be an opportunity for organizations and artists to partner. In the Acadiana region, the maximum grant award amount is $7,500 and the minimum is $2,500. And you do need a 50% cash match for that. So that's another kind of push for us to get you to partner. But it doesn't have to be an arts organization as the applicant. It's open to community organizations, libraries, school boards, and even individuals. You just have to have a 501c3. It doesn't have to be an arts 501c3, but some sort of a 501c3 as your fiscal agent if you're an individual. And so these are applications that open up every year. Usually the application cycle is open from like mid-May to mid-July, and then the funded period is October 1st to September 30th of the following year. So that's a yearly opportunity. Like I said, it's hopefully something that gives, our arts organizations the ability to kind of think outside the box of their normal programming, and then the fact of, focusing on the partnerships is there could be community needs that could be met through the arts that wouldn't otherwise maybe be thought about. And I feel like there was another point I wanted to kind of, possibly other populations that are typically excluded from access to the arts. If they're, focused on for a project, that's another definite priority of the program. So yeah, and then the other project, or the other program that we have is the General Operating Support Program. So this is where arts organizations can apply and get the funding to kind of help sustain their general operating expenses, whether it's their regular scheduled programming, supporting a staff member, supporting the utilities that it costs to keep the facility going. All that is covered with the General Operating Support Program, and that's specific to arts organizations. So you have to have arts in the mission of the organization. And this is a 2-year program, so it's not offered every year. We're coming into an off year, so applications will open up again in 2024. But it's for every size and scope of arts organization. So, it doesn't matter what the budget is. We typically have 3 tiers. This year, we're even piloting a 4th tier for organizations that can't even meet the $30,000 threshold of an operating budget. So we'll see how that goes if we offer that again. But you compete within the tier that kind of fits your organizational budget and scale. So you're not competing, institutions aren't competing against these smaller nonprofits, volunteer-led organizations. Everyone's kind of competing against their peers. And there's an opportunity, if you're a smaller organization, to get up to $5,000 over the course of 2 years. So you'd get it for year 1 and year 2. The advancement kind of intermediate tier can get up to $10,000, and then the institutional tier, those grants go up to $15,000. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I've got some business cards, but it's the same contact info that's on there. And then I have okay. This is the submittable portal where both of the grant opportunities are listed when they're open. And we're under the same Office of Cultural Development as Atchafalaya, and so right now, their 2 opportunities are available. So it's kind of, cool if you log in, you can see whatever, if Main Street is another program under the Office of Cultural Development, sometimes they have grant opportunities here. So this is kind of what submittable, that landing page looks like for us. And then my tip that I feel like kind of relates to the grant criteria that we're starting to focus more on is the knowing your target audience and kind of being able to show that you know who you're targeting with your programming, or with your project or your organizational programming, and why you're targeting them. So that's my tip.
I'd like to add something that all of us do, and that is we will read your draft. We will help you to formulate not your project, you have to come up with your own project, but we will help you to make sure that your grant has eligible criteria in there, like the expenses that you're trying to use for this grant program is appropriate, that it's relevant type of information. We will all talk to you and talk with you about how to apply, but we won't write it for you. I don't think, no, one of us here would write it for you and give it back, but we will have lots of conversations with you. So please don't be timid about that. Go to the source. I always say, if it's a grant about operations for Louisiana Division of the Arts, go to them first. You definitely can talk to us about it. Anna and I would be happy to talk to you about it and lead you to it, or even look at it a little, but this is the expert for that grant. And we with ours, et cetera, et cetera.
I think I just wanted to point out with the LPG, the Louisiana Project Grant, that is open to both organizations and artists. So I know that there aren't a lot of grants available to individual artists in everything apart from what Clare offers. But I do think that with LPG, the thing that you need to know as an individual artist is that you need a fiscal sponsor, which is something that Claire might want to talk about.
Yes, I wrote that down. I was like, oh, I should mention that.
Yeah.
So Basin Arts, we've been kind of quietly piloting a fiscal sponsorship program through our organization, since we do primarily work with artists and are always trying to provide more tools for artists to implement their projects immediately. So we have, for the last 2 years, provided a fiscal sponsorship for people looking to apply for the Louisiana Project Grant. And also, beyond that, we've also worked with several independent projects that need to do their own independent fundraising. And so we kind of have the mechanisms in place now to scale that a tiny bit more. So we're still working,
You do need to get in quick though, because LPG will only accept, from one organization, will only accept 2 fiscally sponsored projects. So if you want to work with Claire and you have an idea, then you need to really start chatting with sooner rather than later.
That's really valuable. I'm so glad that you do that.
it's become something that, I think I was telling Anna, in 2016, when I was putting my sticky notes about all the programs that I wanted the organization to be able to offer, that was up there, but I just felt like it took us a little time to get our own stuff settled.
Sure.
But it feels like organically, especially during COVID, there was a lot of projects that were being generated, but individual artists were not necessarily able to apply for grants, or just you want to raise $5,000 and you need some individual donors, but you want to provide the tax write-off. So the timing was just right, and people were coming to us, and we were sort of more prepared to take that on. So we have some Google Drives in place, not Google Drive, but we have all of our systems, and Taylor, who's our operations manager, is really great about being that immediate point of contact. We have an interactive payment log, so when we receive money, you know when we get it, and you can get it paid out electronically. So we're trying to build a bit more robustness around that program, because we know there are so many this region, I feel like we're such a community of makers. So there's so many ideas, and sometimes you need support for applying for a grant, or you just need, like I said, you have people that are willing to underwrite you, but they want the tax write-off. So we
Sure.
hope that we can provide that service to more people. When it's through a grant, they typically specify like what the fee is. So I think for a Louisiana project grant,
We have a
100
cap that it
it's
can't go, yeah.
$150. So like, basically, we do all of the tax reporting and do all of like the payment processing, so we take a lot of the administrative load off. And then for additional projects, it's just a 5% fee of what you would bring in. So we do all the payment processing, the tax stuff, and then if you raise like $20,000, our processing fee is just 5%.
And something to piggyback on with that, as an artist, you could really only apply through one source. Like, as an artist, you can't say, oh, I'm gonna do City des Arts and Basin and all, for that one grant program. Now, you could go to other grant programs, and I talked about the Art Spark program. As an individual artist, you do not need a fiscal sponsor. You can do that on your own. And with the grants that we manage too, you can actually get a grant writer, an independent grant writer to help you. Don't feel like you have to write this yourself. Many people will pay for a grant to be written and then give that grant writer a percentage, not of this grant necessarily, but just a percentage of money. I always highly recommend that you pay them on your own, you know, and kind of keep it out of the grant. But there was a limit of, I think, $150 again. Years ago, DAF would say, yes, you can hire someone to write your grant, and that would be a reasonable amount. But if you pay them on your own, you could do whatever you want, you know. So just keep that in mind. This is good to start looking for grant writers prior to the cycle coming. You want that established relationship long before, because you have to get into a rhythm with that person. How they write is so different than probably how you write. And the information that you have to give to them, they will need to gather over time, especially if they're not that familiar with the organization. It's good to have someone that is familiar with the organization. But we're also working on getting grant writers on a Culturalist, which is a program that Anna also manages. That's a statewide program. Are y'all familiar with the Culturalist? Anna could tell you a smidgen about that. But there is a category there. If a person is a grant writer, if you know someone that's a grant writer, they can actually sign up there, and then that way you guys could look up your grant writer on your own if you don't have one. You want to tell them a little bit about the Culturalist?
Well, I was just gonna like second the grant writer. So that was something that I was writing all of the grants myself for Basin, and then a few years ago, like during COVID, it was just, there was a lot of overwhelm. We didn't have staff, and but we were a pretty small organization, so I was just like, like, I don't know if we can spend the money. Like, I felt very stressed about paying for a grant writer, but we had gotten a little bit of seed money that didn't get used one way, so we said, okay, let's try it. And like, it's such an investment, because then like you don't have to hire that person to write your grant every single year. But like for us, especially coming off of COVID, it felt like the whole organization was turned inside out. So all of those narratives that you wrote a couple cycles ago, like you couldn't reuse anything, you know, it was all new territory. So just in terms of like smaller organizations or individual grants, just sharing my own experience, like it might feel like, oh, I couldn't possibly pay for someone to help me write to get money that I need, but I would definitely say if you could earmark something, if possible, it's such an investment, even if you only do it for one grant. It gives you like a fresh perspective on what you're doing, because when you're in the trenches, you can't even see sometimes what you're doing.
That's true. That's true. And when you're writing a grant too, if you look at the questions and just really be very specific, those questions are very pointed, you know. Like Anna mentioned earlier, who, what, when, where, why, you know, is basically threaded throughout the entire grant application. And the people that are reading the grants, think about this, they're reading 15, 20, maybe more grants. So you want to be very specific and leave out all the flowery, colorful, you know, wonderful, exaggerated language. You want to just let us know what it is that you need and what you want to accomplish. And also, be sure to look at the guidelines under what's eligible, what's not eligible, what is accepted and what's not. You know, if they're saying you can't use the money to feed the crowd at the festival, then don't put that in there at all, you know? Just go with what you know and what is actually written that you can get money for.
Do you have any questions?
I was just gonna ask, can you find your, I know like you can look up, artists and culture bearers and different buttons on there. Is the grant just right up right there with everyone?
Oh, yeah, one of the
So,
cultural
are you
lists, yeah.
talking about the culturalist?
Yes.
Yes, so the culturalist, I'm not sure if there's a specific area for grant writer, it might be under literary artists, but if it's not on there, I will
It's
have to
under
go back
writer.
and double check it actually. So if anyone else is not sure what the culturalist is, it's a database for artists and arts and cultural organizations to set up a profile, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you want to be doing. Also there's two other bits to it, which is one, you can search opportunities, so any open calls, any grants, any job opportunities, any kind of opportunity, you can search those. And also in the new version, they just released 2.0, it also includes events. So if you've got an event coming up, please pop it on the culturalist, because it's a good way for you to promote your event. And for Acadiana, it is acadiana.culturalist, which is cultrlyst.com. And I have some postcards at the front here, if anyone wants to take that away, but I will also include that in the email.
The grant writers that we've been trying to solicit for this, we're encouraging them to put their profile under the writers, the one under literary arts and under writers. I haven't been very successful. I had a lot of really good grant writers at one time that did this on the side, and they were very helpful to many small arts organizations or organizations with not enough time or energy to do it, but a lot have retired or whatever, so we need a whole new crop. I think we're gonna go to the university literary department, English department, see what's going on. Maybe we could train people to write grants and then put them in there.
One year Connie Castile had her class go through like a mock application.
Yes, that was so good.
Yeah.
We're planning on doing that with her again.
Okay.
This year.
Yeah, and Keith Doric's class, we've done it a couple of times.
Mhm.
Anyone have any questions? I know that we mentioned a lot of words that maybe many of you don't know, so like cash match, reimbursable. Is everyone clear on what all these things mean?
Don't be shy.
Does anyone have any specific questions about the grants? Hey, Jeannie.
So thank you for this information, some great reminders about how to help you help us. I guess my question is, well, for instance, I've been at Carolina, use Atchafalaya as an example, that we're asked to write letters to local legislators, informing them that we've been awarded a grant. So I'm just curious, who are some of the champions in our legislature right now, especially Acadiana, who make sure that arts are taken care of in state government funding or locally?
I'm just gonna repeat the question for home, which is that,
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Yeah, we do encourage people to write letters to their legislatures to advocate for the arts and make sure that the funding doesn't dry up. And Jeannie was asking who are the champions of the arts right now that we should be focusing in on?
So our letters to the legislators are a little different than the arts champions. We're actually going after reauthorization, which is redesignation of our program for 15 more years. So while there's a lot of overlap, I mean, Paige Cortez is a big supporter of Louisiana French and the culture there. Tanner McGee down in Terrebonne is a big supporter for us. I'm not exactly sure who the specific arts advocates are. Ours is more Louisiana culture, but maybe you can answer.
Yeah, and as the state, employees and branch of the Division of the Arts, we're not really supposed to be associated with advocacy, but there is an arm called the Louisiana Partnership for the Arts, and they're the advocacy branch for the arts. So I think that the acknowledging and the letting the legislators know is just kind of a piece of that advocacy. But I think the LPA would know a little bit better who they're kind of targeting as far as who's the allies for the arts at this point.
On a local level, we encourage, right, to Nanette Cook and Glenn Lazard and Pat Lewis, like all of them, just because, they're our neighbors. So the more we get in touch with them, the more they know that we exist.
Yeah, and be sure to thank them too, because they have already helped us so significantly. This past year, the Lafayette Consolidated Government grants increased to $50,000. We were at $17,000 for our competitive grants.
Did you get a bit of a shock this year?
Like passed out. I was like, that's amazing. Like I did not expect
You didn't know that, what I just said?
So I mean, until I got the.
Oh, I was gonna say.
No, but I always assume it's small, so I was like,
Last year, Clare for the same program received $1,050, and this year you received $3,700. Yeah, huge increase.
it's a big, I was thrilled,
Yes,
but
big
yeah,
increase.
unexpected.
And one thing that the LPA has done, and I'm not sure if it actually has been decided on yet, is a license plate that benefits the arts. And so I don't think that that additional funding is going to be filtered through the state, but it is going to definitely be filtered into the regions for arts. So
Very good.
yeah,
We'll take it.
yeah.
Any questions? So our information is everywhere, and so please don't be shy about contacting us. Email is always the best because we check that thing every day, all day long. And sometimes we're not sitting at our desk, so the phone is ringing off the hook, but we will definitely check and get back to you.
We still have a little bit of time, so if you do want to hang around and ask anybody any specific questions, please feel free to do so. We have some water and some iced tea in the back corner there. But yeah, we are, our doors are open. Please come and chat to us about any projects you're thinking about. Yeah, happy to help.
I have a question. So if you're not too shy, if you've received a grant from any source, any art grant from this area, can you raise your hand? You did a long time ago, through CT, yeah. So that's the majority of the room, which is really great. And so we want to see repeats. We like repeat customers. We just want new and exciting projects and activities. And we want to see more partnerships together. So look around the room at the people that raise their hands and think, oh, maybe I can partner with them if you hadn't received the grant before. That would be a good place to start. Or to partner with someone else in another part, especially for Louisiana Project Grant. Now you can go throughout the entire region. Before, it was a parish by parish competition, but now you can go to any parish and work with any other arts organization, nonprofit, social service organization, school board, government agency, and get that thing done. You can do it. All right.
Can I just double check there's no questions on? No, okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and yeah, feel free to hang out and ask us any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you.
I have cultural